First of all, I want to say welcome to CadreTalk, everyone. My name is Dawn Penfold, and I'm president of Meeting Jobs, which recently partnered with a great company called Cadre. So first, a little bit about CadreTalk. We have to do the commercial. We have developed this series as an opportunity for you to grab a cup of coffee, like I have, and take a short break out of your day. Today, and from now on, we're also producing this program on a live YouTube feed. So I want to welcome those of you who have been moved over to YouTube. Mark your calendar every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, where we're going to have a 30-minute conversation with an industry expert on a variety of topics. Our goal at Cadre and Meeting Jobs is to give all the meeting and event professionals an opportunity to learn something new in this conversation, even if it's just one takeaway. So before we get started, I'm going to share a little bit about who we are. Cadre is a very cool platform and a service offering a compliant, and my God, the key word here is compliant, gig economy freelancer staffing model. Think about a platform for event and independent contractors that is similar to Uber and LinkedIn with a marketing opportunity like Google, and that's who Cadre is. Bottom line, if you're hiring event staff, virtual event staff, or longer-term meeting or event project professionals, Cadre is the source for you to find that talent that's affordable and compliant. If you're a gig worker in our industry, this is your go-to place to find work. In fact, for gig workers and independent contractors and those who own their businesses right now, Cadre is offering a 50% discount on the required background check, so don't hesitate. Now, Meeting Jobs offers an industry-specific job board as well as services in retained search and resume pre-qualification services for the events and the meetings industry. Together, Cadre and Meeting Jobs provides a full complement of labor resources across the hiring spectrum, from full-time planners to project-based contract planners to event staff. And you can find us at www.hirecadre.com and www.meetingjobs.com. So now a few housekeeping notes. Everyone is muted and you're not seen. So there's no need to throw on the extra makeup or make sure that you're presentable from the waist up. You're encouraged to ask questions using the Q&A area. If you're not in the Zoom webinar room, we address your questions during the program or at the end if time allows. If you're watching through our live YouTube feed, we're not going to be able to see your questions. However, submit them through the YouTube feed and we'll get to all your questions later on and we'll send them to you. So tune in next week when we're bringing on a celebrity psychologist with Dr. Elizabeth Lombardo and a discussion on, get this, staying sane during the times of insanity. Oh my God, don't we all need that right now? And by the way, I want to thank Garrett Speakers International for hosting Dr. Lombardo. So we're going to go now to Lois Gilbert. Now, I've known Lois for 150 years.
At least.
And Lois, to me, gets it with resume. She's a former meeting professional. She knows our industry. She knows our keywords. And Lois has always been my go-to person when I've recommended people to have resumes written. And so, Lois, I want to thank you for being here today. And we're going to have a lot of material to cover. But the first thing I wanted to say is there are thousands upon thousands of people in our industry out of work. And I've talked to many of them each day, and the same question is always asked: how do you explain this work gap on your resume? I mean, how do you explain being out of work for a full year if you're in a hotel business or you're a meeting planner? Can you want to touch on that a bit?
Well, basically because not only meeting planners in the hotel industry have really had a problem. In 2008, the same thing happened, only not to this extent. So your hiring managers and your recruiters are not concerned about the gap. They know what's happened, they're aware of it, and they're looking for people right now. So take that off the plate right now. It's something that you should not worry about. There are ways to handle it, both in your resume, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, and that's what we'll talk about.
So when it comes to specifics on the resume, should you put down like, okay, if your job ended in March of 2020, should you put April 2020 to current, things that you've done as a job, or should you not?
What you need to do is to put down the dates. If you're furloughed, which is a different story, that means that you're still working, supposedly, put down after the dates from, say, 2005 to 2020, in parentheses, put furloughed.
Okay.
When it comes to what's happening now, basically what you need to do, and excuse me for looking at my notes here because I culled it down to 4 pages from 10. What you need to do when you're describing your job, or when you're doing your bullets, go to or say something like, prior to my my COVID layoff, these are the projects that I worked in. So you can mention it up front. You don't have to mention it in your resume at all. You mention it in your cover letter, but you have to be prepared because you're going to get that dreaded question, tell me about yourself. And that's when you can insert that you were laid off, you were furloughed, you're not working, and this is what I've been doing since. So as you saw the cartoon before, I hope everybody wasn't just sitting binging on Netflix.
Well, that's what I wanted to say, is that that's what you had to be productive with, is what you've done while you've been furloughed. And I mean, I always joke around, I've been doing a lot of these programs, and I said that in the first 3 months, I watched 17 seasons of Grey's Anatomy. And I could conduct surgery on anybody right now after doing all that. But if I was going on a job interview, I may say that in jest, but what they want to hear, I feel, and I want to get your input on that, they want to see what courses you took. They want to see, if you did volunteer work, but just showing that you are a productive individual and that you kept up with industry trends.
Exactly. They want to know, and this goes whether it's because of COVID or at any time when there's a gap, they want to make sure that you were not sitting and feeling sorry for yourself.
I had, and this brings us to, what if your job, I mean, you had to leave your job, you weren't laid off, but you had to leave your job because you had 4 kids at home, that all of a sudden you were homeschooling and making sure they were there. Are you honest with that? Do you say that on your
Yes.
resume or your cover letter, or do you say that during your interview?
I think nowadays the recruiter wants to know more about you as a person, besides your professional life. So if you are teaching your 4th grader how to do multiplication, that's what they want to know. Did you help one of the community associations make masks? What did you do? What did you accomplish? Volunteer work was very difficult, obviously, but there were ways to volunteer. Did you go online and take courses? Did you continuing networking? Just don't sit. They want to know how resilient you are.
Okay, so that's a good that's a good response to that, and I'm finding that everybody's going to be more sympathetic to the fact. The one question I'm seeing hiring officials ask is, if you kept your job, or until you kept your job, what did you do to make an impact at your organization when COVID hit? Did you help renegotiate contracts? Did you help, did you come up with a game plan for hybrid meetings? What was your action plan? And that is also something that I think you should discuss.
That's exactly, they want to make sure that you can take the ball and run with it,
Yeah.
that you just didn't sit back and go, oh, woe is me.
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? Look at all the work they're throwing on me. How
Yeah.
am I going to get it done? But you need to take a step back. You need to put yourself, and I've always said this to my clients, take a step back, put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter or a headhunter. What are they looking for to fill that position? And how can you let them know that you're the right person?
Okay, well, speaking of that, okay, so if you see an ad for a position, should you change your resume for every specific job you apply to?
Absolutely. Um, Never use the same resume for what you think might be the same kind of job. I had, I think it was 2018, before COVID, way before COVID, I had a client that was an event production company. And unfortunately, they had to lay off 6 people. And they came to me. Um, my challenge was that these 6 people did the same job in the same area. I had to make sure that not one of these people had the same resume, because everybody's story is different. And that's my job to be able to tell it and explain it. So if 2 resumes from that company, 2 people from that company that were laid off applied for the same job, their resumes told a different story.
Okay, well, you brought up story, and I know that one of the things that you are into is finding out what the story is of the candidate when you're writing their resume. You have to find the story, but also tie in keywords so it gets through applicant tracking system. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Applicant tracking system?
Well, yeah, and the story. I mean, because the
Yeah.
story to me is not like once upon a time there
No,
was.
that's true. What
Um,
the applicant tracking system, if my memory serves me, came about sometime around 2008 when, there was a recession. And the young man that was doing my website at the time needed help and placed an ad, and I don't know where. And he wound up within an hour with 1,500 responses. This is where the applicant tracking system comes in. Yes, you're talking to a robot, but companies are doing algorithms so that they look for a specific thing. It might be they want somebody from Princeton University. It might be that they want somebody from the Midwest. It might be that they want somebody that has 10 years experience. So when you apply for a job, you've got to read the ad carefully and read it more than once and take notes on it. And you'll be able to start seeing the keywords. And I have some takeaways here that I think are very important. And I'm just going to go through it briefly.
okay.
Because I know we're, number one, choose the right keywords. And then, as I said, when you read the ad, make a list of the keywords, anything that strikes you, anything that you can relate to.
Can I
And
interrupt you a minute with
sure,
that? And I wanted to give an example of that. If the keywords in the ad is conference and you were a meeting planner, it's the
yeah,
same
well,
job.
it's the same. Yeah,
Meeting won't be picked up through the algorithms and through the applicant tracking system, but
right,
conference will be. So if they say conference a lot, switch your resume over that you were a conference planner instead of a meeting planner.
correct. I mean, that we should not have to tell people that, but we do.
Oh, no, we have to. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we truly do. So once you have those keywords, make sure that you use them more than once. Use them throughout your resume, and incorporate your skills in the summary, in the skills section of your resume. And again, customize your resume to the job. Here's something important. Don't leave off the employment dates. They might want to see how long you've been working at this particular career. So
You
don't
put
leave.
month or just year? Month and year or just year?
No, month is, use the year.
Okay.
Use the year, because when you do a resume, it's got to be clean and crisp and concise. And nobody cares what month you started. They want to know the year.
Okay.
Okay. Keep it simple. Keep your resume simple. Don't use graphics. ATS will not accept it. And Dawn and I have seen resumes that hit our desks. I saw one the other day. I didn't know what to look at first. So although I don't use templates, I don't believe in it. You can go through either a functional or a hybrid or a chronological resume. It doesn't matter, but just don't use a template. And if you want a fancy resume, you can make one and bring it with you when you go to the interview, or if you're networking, but don't use it when you're submitting an application. And here's something interesting. Don't worry about the length of your resume when you have to apply for a job and it's going to be through the applicant tracking system. It doesn't matter. The robot is going to pull out all the pertinent information. And if you've done it correctly, all the keywords and your skills match what they want, they'll go through it if it's a 3-page, 4-page, and they'll pull out what's important. And pay attention to your social media brand, because an employer will look at it. So check Facebook, check whatever you're on nowadays. I don't even know. And here's something. Remember the human. Remember that small employers will not be using the applicant tracking system. So you need a resume that that you can send to them. So it's not a 4-page, it's a 1 or 2-page, and anything more than 2 pages, I think only Bill Gates or Warren Buffett would need. And when you go out on interviews, make sure you have extra copies of your resume with you. And I also suggest having a book, a workbook, a show and tell, show and tell. You might have a big one, but make sure you have a small one that you can leave behind, because if somebody is interviewing 10 people, you want to be remembered.
And see, those things are important now digitally, be able to send them as files over to somebody.
Right.
And so that's important. Okay, we have a bunch of questions and we have 10 minutes. So I'm going to start going through some of the questions. What do you think is the best way to follow up on a submitted job application when everything is so unpersonalized and automated? How would you say? I have an answer for it, but I want to hear your answer for this.
Okay. I would hope that you have the card of the business person that you've interviewed with. And I would
no, just the application, not the interview.
Oh, just the application. That's hard. If you know who is in human resources, you can contact them, just saying simply, I sent my resume in for this job, because you never know how many jobs are available in that company, and would like to know what the process is from now on. What is your procedure?
Yeah, I always say try the back door. Find out who the movers and shakers are, who's the head of the department that you're applying to, who you might know on LinkedIn, and try to make connection with them that way through the back door and send your resume to them directly. Okay, now, should I create a logo for my LLC to upload to LinkedIn?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Very, very, very simple. If you could do that, absolutely. That's your brand.
Yeah, that's your brand. I took a paid negotiations course through MPI. I received a certificate, but not a credential. How important is it that you put certificates down on your resume? Do you have to have a separate page of all the certificate classes you took? Is that important?
It's important. It depends upon how many classes. I had a client who sent me 2 pages of certifications and associations that he belonged to. And my question to him was, when do you have time to work?
And see, I've gotten that too, and that's I want your advice on this too, because I've gotten resumes if somebody has their name, and then after it you see CMP, MBA, CMM, and they have like their degrees and 35 credentials after their name, and I've had hiring officials who have actually told me that's not important to me. It's great that they have a CMP, but I think it should be down under toward education or something in that order and not after your name.
There's 2 thoughts about that. If you're applying for a meeting planning job, I would put that right by my name. I would also incorporate it down in education. Usually I can do, depending upon how much they have, a certification, education part of the resume and combine it. So it depends, but again, crisp and clean and clear.
And I always say if you're applying for a university job, it's good to put your degrees, like if you have an MBA after your name or a PhD, for those of you
Right.
who have that.
Right. Or something like that. You might want to put it on top of the resume.
Yeah. How about creating hyperlinks, like a hyperlink for your email address or a hyperlink to your LinkedIn account?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think absolutely. Hiring officials are going to go to your LinkedIn account anyway. You might as well make it easy for them.
Absolutely, no question. And you do it with your contact information. And I would say about latest figures are about 85 to 90% of your hiring people go right to LinkedIn.
Okay, this is going to be a loaded question. Ready? You ready? Okay. Ageism.
Ageism.
How do you overcome, I call it being chronologically advantaged on your resume? How far back do you go? Do you put your date of graduation from university? How do you overcome ageism on a resume?
You, when you do your education, you don't need the dates. When you're writing your resume, nobody cares what you did 20 years ago. I would do it 10 years. Things are changing so quickly. One of my early clients was a freelance meeting planner and had been one for 20 years. So you can imagine the list of companies she worked for. And when I work with my client, I do an individualized worksheet for them to fill out. And when she got her, she called and she yelled at me. And I explained to her why we're doing it, because it impacts her thinking. I want to know what she accomplished. And she said, how am I supposed to remember what I accomplished 20 years ago? I said, well, you're not. Nobody cares. I worked with her on it. I sent her responsibilities versus achievements. And I would say too many people put responsibilities down on their resume rather than their achievements. When she finished it, she called me to thank me. What she said was, I didn't remember how much I had accomplished in my career. And by doing this exercise that I make them do, there's a light that comes to them. They understand that what they did was worthwhile.
Well, yeah, and it also highlights the importance, what you've achieved. And that's what hiring officials want to see, is what you've achieved and what you're going to bring to them.
Well, basically, people have a tendency to think that what they did is not important. Before I started as a resume writer, there was a gentleman who was security in his corporate office that I was working in. And he asked me if I would do his resume, and he handed me 3 handwritten pages. So the first thing I did was to do it chronologically to see what he had done. And he had gone to the University of Chicago and became a community activist. 7 years was missing from all this information. And I asked him where he was. Did he hit the lottery? Was he in jail? Where was he? It turned out he went back home to Ghana and opened up a restaurant and a cultural center and hired young people to sing and, entertainers, and then help them get gigs in Europe. He thought that was not important.
Yeah, you've got to know what's important. Okay.
So everything you do is important.
Okay, here's a great question. I've been out of the workforce for several years, staying at home with my kids. I have volunteered and done lots of planning for school and miscellaneous projects like bar mitzvahs, etc. I planned corporate events for 20 years. Thoughts on how to present that on my resume?
Okay. If she's looking for planning, which I assume she is, basically what I would do is I would do a hybrid resume. And headhunters and recruiters are human people. I mean, they're really human, and they will understand that you took time off, but this is what you did. Again, it's the same thing, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, 4 years. What did you accomplish? Where were you? So she kept up with the work on a volunteer basis.
Yep, exactly. How does one handle the salary question if it's not listed on the job posting? I mean, that really doesn't have much to do on the resume, but I've been told by hiring officials that if I request salary information or salary range requirement and they don't give that to me, I consider that as, I don't even consider them because they can't follow simple directions.
Well,
and every resume book out there, everything will say, do not give them your resume. But it's different now. It's so different now.
If they ask for your salary requirements, number one, go online and find out what the salary range is for that particular position and that title. Go to other companies to find out. And in your cover letter, you just say, I am looking for salary within 0 to whatever. Right. And it's very, very simple. You don't have to give them a specific answer, but respond to the question.
Right. And I always say that the other thing that you have to be aware of is that they want to make sure that you're qualified to fit within their job. And if you're making $90,000 a year and the job is paying $50,000 a year, you don't want that job at $50,000 a year. Right. So you don't want to waste your time, and they don't want to waste time. So that's why it's important to answer that. Okay, this is a good one. I was a CMP, but due to circumstances, it expired and cannot retake it for a while. While I do not use the CMP initials on my resume, can I list having received my CMP as a certification?
Yeah, you were certified.
Yeah, and you just put the dates that you were certified.
Right. And then, if she's planning on taking it next year, just mention that we'll be starting the next, we'll be starting recertification.
Okay, now one other question, and then I'm going to do the flashcards. How do you show in your resume you fit into culture, into their culture?
It depends upon if you know their culture and if you've done your research. What you can do is in the summary, address certain aspects of the company that you see where you fit in, or you can do it in your cover letter.
Okay.
But you have to remember that not all recruiters read your cover letter.
Okay. Right. Okay, Lois, I told you this was going to be the quickest 30 minutes of your life, but here's quick yes or no on a resume. Pictures? Yes or no?
Your picture, no.
Quotes?
Yes.
Oh, really? Okay. I would have said no, but that's okay. That's
Well,
it.
it depends. Who are you quoting? I mean, I try to incorporate a referral or a recommendation from one of their vendors, the coworkers, or whatever. That's what I
Okay.
mean
And
as
I'm
a
thinking
quote.
more of the warm and fuzzy quotes, like, you
No,
know,
no,
objective,
no.
skills,
Yes,
hyperlinks. We talked about that. Yes.
yes,
Volunteer committees,
yes,
personal interests.
no.
Okay. That's my yes and no part. Okay. I'm going to end this by saying, what can we do for you? If somebody wants their resume written by you, how do they contact you?
All they have to do is go to Lois at theresumewordsmith.com, or you can go to my website and contact me through my website, the Resume Wordsmith. Or you can call me 908-839-7419.
Okay, great. That's it. Lois, thank you. You've been great. And
Thank you.
it's just so nice to connect with you. And everybody, will see you next week with Dr. Lombardo talking about being sane in times of insanity. And you'll be receiving a recording of this. And thank you, everyone. Have a great week.
Thanks,
Bye.
Dawn. Bye-bye.